Do not attempt to adjust your podcast player. We are controlling the transmission. We are here to be your guide, helping you to explore local events, the art scene, music, theater, sports, and possibly a conspiracy or two. All here on the GCRX Radio and Podcast Network.
Good evening, Granite City, and everyone who is listening to my voice right now. Hello, hello, hello. I've had to hold this pose for like 7 or 8 seconds before we even went live, just so that when we did go live, it was like ready to go, you know? So I am Brian with a Y, your favorite guy. Welcome to In the Metro podcast here in Granite City, Studio B. Sitting right next to the Garden Gate Tea Room, the Board Gamery, and the Downtown Diner. Also right next to Studio C, where you can watch some movies with some friends or host like a GoldenEye tournament or something.
Oh, we gotta do that. That'd be so fun.
That would be, that TV is massive.
Yep.
A GoldenEye tournament on that. Oh,
What's GoldenEye?
GoldenEye?
Yeah.
Nintendo
GoldenEye,
64?
the video game that came out for the N64, was it?
Oh, this is like 007 GoldenEye?
007
All right,
GoldenEye.
I got
Yeah,
you
yeah.
now. All right. I
Yeah,
thought that's
that
what
was
you were
fun.
talking about.
That's
but-
exactly what it is.
Play that
Okay.
for hours on like a 19-inch TV.
Oh, absolutely. And you'd sit there, you'd crowd around, and you just, I got you. Yeah, it was all land-based, and you pissed your friends off worse than, well, maybe not worse than Uno.
Oh,
I don't
no.
know.
You want to piss people off on board games? Monopoly is the
Monopoly.
all-time.
Oh,
Monopoly is
Monopoly.
all time. But look, I got here Uno No Mercy. Are you familiar with Uno No Mercy?
I am not.
So Uno has, draw 2, draw 4. Uno No Mercy has draw 6, draw 10.
Holy crap.
And it stacks. So if I drop a draw 2 and you don't have a draw 2, but you've got a draw 4, you can drop a draw 4. But your draw 4 may be a reverse draw 4, which means I've got a draw 6. And I'm being like, listen, I'm going to drop a draw 4, or I'll drop a draw 6 or a draw 10. But basically it stacks high, it doesn't stack low. So, I mean, the game pretty much ends for any person who ends up having more than 25 cards in their hand. They just explode and then they're out. This game has brought the ire of myself to a 7-year-old when I was my nephew when I was in Indianapolis a couple weekends ago, where I told him, F you, I'm going to bed. It was the whole thing. Like,
Wow.
yeah, like I was not playing. In any case, you guys are hearing voices. I want to introduce you to who we've got on for the show tonight. Look, it is with my esteemed pleasure, always wonderful to have the esteemed Chuck Hill here tonight.
Hey, guys.
Chuck is the founder and creator of the show. Super excited. In fact, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. We also have Miss Dee Dee Purley. She's back.
Hey.
Hey, y'all. Uh-huh. And at the helm, in the control room, in engineering, we have Engineer Bill.
Hello.
Hello, indeed.
He keeps his train rolling, man.
Indeed.
I just can't do it, Captain. That was my best, Scotty. I'm kind of tired.
Oh, man. It's been a week. It's been a really fun week. How was your weekend, Chuck?
My weekend was absolutely fantastic.
What'd you do?
So went on a work trip. Went to
What's new?
yeah.
Always gone with work.
Yeah. So no, it was awesome. Went to Kansas City. Didn't have to fly there. Thank the Lord for that, because planes are dropping like flies
Dear
recently.
God, yes.
And but no, we drove out to Kansas City for a trade show. And we were there for a couple of days. Miss Rebecca went along with me, and
Nice.
yeah, we had a good time. She just kind of did her thing, and I worked and got to meet some new customers and some of our current customers, which is always nice. It was a short show, which was nice to do, and it's kind of nice because I actually am sticking around town a little more often than I was there for a while.
Excellent.
So it is nice, yeah. So, but yeah, we did that. Stopped by Mod Pizza on the way back home. That was always good stuff.
We're going to talk pizza in a sec. But yeah, that's good. That's a good weekend.
Yeah, it was.
Dee Dee, what'd you do this weekend?
Friday, I had a teen night for four teenagers. We did this thing where they like wrote things on plates that they wanted to let go, and then they smashed them. And we also
Very
did like
therapeutic.
vision. Yeah.
Indeed.
Oh yeah. And then we also did like vision boards for them. They loved it, and then they started having their own thing, doing karaoke, dancing, and singing and everything. And so that was fun. Saturday I rested all day. I left the house to get food, and that was about it. And then yesterday I had church. And then after church, I helped someone else who's starting their church do like check-in for their little thing, and that was it.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Speaking of breaking plates and that, are you aware that there's a place in St. Louis? I think it's called the Rage Room.
Smash Room.
Is it
Rage Room.
Smash Room? Is that what it's
Oh
called?
yeah, I definitely want to go. It's a rage room.
I hear in Japan they call them karaoke rooms, but it's not meant to sing. It's just and it's not just throwing plates. Like it's all types of just you take a baseball bat, you're covered up with PPE, and you just go
My
in
God.
That's kind of what the.
What
I
is-
thought you,
beat the hell.
What is the insurance on that got to run?
What?
oh,
The
I can't even
insurance
imagine.
on like for the owner, like, I mean, broken glass.
Yeah, like that's the whole
objects,
point.
Baseball. I get it,
You
but like,
shatter vases.
but like it's
Or is it
insurance.
vases?
Insurance is high enough for just having customers walk into your establishment,
Mhm.
let alone them breaking things while
Yeah.
they're in
Oh, they're
there.
intentionally doing
Right.
it. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you
It's a
sound-
vase if you make under 70 grand a year. It's a vase if you make over 100 grand a year. So,
Just like the
You-
foyer or the foyer.
yeah.
So with those places, you sign a waiver upon going in. So if you get hurt, they're not liable for it, and they just take old junk and like if there's a fax machine that doesn't work, they sit it in there. If it's like it's
Oh.
all old stuff,
That would be
but
cool.
they put in like they give you like golf clubs, baseball. I've researched this because I want to go, so
She's
I
ready.
know. They give you like baseball bats, golf clubs, anything that you can, and you just break stuff and you get all your anger out. And I feel like that's better than breaking someone's face. So
That is
I don't think it's as satisfying as breaking
it's
someone's
not,
face.
but you
though.
can bring pictures and put their pictures on it and just
That's
like
true.
go crazy.
That's true.
But you know, if you
Thought
got this
about
one
this.
office printer that just constantly makes you mad,
You want to beat it.
you beat up on some technology.
It's a scene right out of was Office Space.
Office Space.
Office
Yeah.
Space, yeah. That was such a great
Great
movie.
movie.
And they also used it in the one Tyler Perry movie. What was it? Why Did I Get Married? The scene where Janet Jackson was doing that's when she really found out that Michael Jackson died. And Tyler Perry went in there, he stopped everything, and he told her to just let her feelings out. So that was real. That
wow.
scene was real.
Dang.
Those tears were real. All of that she was going through, that was the moment she found out, because she couldn't just stop and, stop filming. So he went in there and he told her to just feel everything and just get it out. So that was real.
Technically,
You
it
know, I don't-
could.
You know, I
I
don't
mean,
watch
Could, but
very many Tyler Perry movies, but he's a talented guy. I do love the movies that I've seen.
He is.
You know, what's the older lady name that he plays?
Medea.
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 Yes. Yeah, that cracks me up, man.
It does, yeah, it is funny.
Medea. So stage Medea versus movie Medea, they're slightly different. Stage Medea, there's less padding when it comes to things that are going to be said.
I got you.
Yeah.
I remember, I forget which
Less scripted.
show it was, but this guy came over and was being really disrespectful, and one of Medea's either nieces or great nieces was pregnant, like first trimester, and she said, just hang tight, and if I tell you get down, get down. And the guy was mouthing off to Medea, called her an oversized bag of Skittles, and Medea went, okay, and she looked at the niece and said, get down. And then she walked inside and came back out and fired off a couple rounds at him. And I was like, oh, well, damn. Okay, get off my prop. I was like, what? Dude, like hopped the fence, like fell over himself. Like, well, okay, then.
Yeah, usually when lead starts flying, you take someone a little more seriously about getting away.
Mhm. I think the plays they're scripted, but they're like they can kind of like improvise and do their own thing. Whereas to movies, they have to like stick to the
Yeah.
script. Yeah.
But like with the plays, they can go off and because like you can even watch it sometimes. Like they'll catch each other off guard and like try to like not
Mm-hmm.
laugh because they didn't expect that to happen.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Like when he's always wearing the really tight pants. Tamla Mann's husband.
Oh, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Brown. He came in wearing some like I don't know. It was like a teenager's pair of pants, and he's like a portly guy. So he comes in wearing these, I think, red leather pants, and it was just like, how am I supposed to take you seriously? Like, it doesn't matter what take it is. I cannot take you seriously. This is insane. I cannot. Bill, what'd you do this weekend?
Worked on Saturday for Tech Talk stuff, and then on Sunday we had baptism, which was awesome. I think it was like 9 people, but I would like to say that across the city, I think it was like somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 people in different churches got baptized. So
Wow.
Oh, wow.
an amazing day. So that's pretty cool.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Our baptism's coming up, I think. I should know this. The 16th?
You got to convince somebody to put one of those like black bath bombs in their shorts or something.
Dude, have you seen the video?
Put an Alka-Seltzer in your mouth.
Right.
Come up-
I get nervous every time one of my students at the church gets baptized because I'm like, if they
Waiting.
do something, and my students are those type of students that will do something, and I'm just like, okay. After it's done, I'm like, all right, no, we didn't do anything.
No
bad.
incidents. We're good.
Nice.
But every time they go under, I'm like, oh God, all right. Some of them, I'll be like, you can hold that one down a little bit longer.
So there, I did see a video where they were baptizing, and this dude just held the baptizee, like held him under. It's like a lot longer than he should have. And I'm like, wait, they didn't pause the video. People are moving in the background. I'm waiting for this guy to come up, like, you know, like flailing arms, like, please.
Smacking back of his head.
It's like, no, we're not done yet. We're not done yet. But there was another video that I saw. I sent it to my pastor. I was like, hey, can you believe? So the guy's about to get baptized. Like, do you believe, you know? And he's like, I am Jesus. It's like, I'm sorry, what?
Oh, yeah. I
Oh,
saw that
no.
one. I saw that one. Yeah.
It's like, no, do you accept Jesus as your Lord? And he's like, I am Jesus. It's like,
I did see that. That was crazy, man.
it's like, we need to have a conversation with him afterwards. I'm like, what conversation did you have beforehand?
That's what I was
Yeah.
going to say. My question is like, did the church not sit you down, but like, hey, this is what baptism is?
Mhm.
I mean, you got to weed out somebody like that, because if he's going to proclaim that he's Jesus in the baptismal, he's been doing it before too. Like,
Yeah.
bro, you just pick people who are like, want to get baptized? Yeah, like,
Yeah, and I could imagine maybe that's something that happened before. Like, hey, anybody want to get back? You know what? I'm game.
Well, I know in my church, like most of the time, people go through like this class we have
Mhm.
called
Mhm.
growth track and all
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
we do too.
But then on baptism day, they'll say if there's any
Spontaneous.
spontaneous like
Yeah.
you know
Yeah,
baptisms, and he probably was one of them.
that's
Like,
possible.
but if you were Jesus, you wouldn't need to be baptized. So
Yeah.
I mean, he got
think-
baptized. John the Baptist, boom, and then the dove. And I was like, okay.
I think one of the funniest baptism videos that I've seen, you see them on the little reels or whatever, and the guy sitting in, and they got him in the tub, right? And he's sitting in the tub, and the pastor asked him, he's like, so do you want to tell everyone why you're getting baptized? He goes, because I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah, I've seen that one. I've seen that one.
And I was
Absolutely.
like,
Like,
well, you know what?
okay, all right, yeah,
Yeah.
we're good. Let me see another funny. Dude was getting baptized. It's one of these old school. They've got the camera up here,
mhm.
and you're looking into the baptismal, and he's standing here. There's a priest here. She's like dressed. He's dressed over here. The other priest. They go to baptize him, and the priest falls in the water with him.
No,
And it's like,
whoops.
Maybe it's
and
the
you
Holy
hear the-
Spirit nudging him in a little bit, you know?
and you hear a voice, "Hey man, help him out." It's like, no,
He's drowning.
oh no. And he had a tough time getting
How
out.
deep is this baptismal? Jeez.
I mean, it was ankle deep, maybe like waist deep water,
I
but
was gonna say
still,
waist deep. I
waist
hope
deep is
so.
usually it. But yeah, yikes.
Stuff like that on live streams, and that's probably, I don't know if it's the good thing, it's definitely the humorous thing about live streams, you
Mhm.
know, but it can be good or bad because once you go live, most things nowadays, you got about a 15, 20-second delay, you know, before it actually gets there. But if something crazy happens, what you've already captured is
Mhm.
already going on the live stream,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Oh,
So
believe me, I know.
some of it is great meme fodder, you know, some of it's great, but some of it, you know, some of you like, yeah, we got to figure something out there, you know, because even here, we don't have a dump button.
No, we
You
need
know?
one though.
Mhm.
Yeah, radio has one, you know, but
Yeah.
you know, I don't know that there are many podcasts that
That's
that
why-
are live that actually have dump buttons.
That's
you know?
why
Right.
it always scared the crap out of me when you were like, "Oh, if you want to come on the show live," I'm like, "Do you realize what they're capable of doing
Oh,
if they come on the
so-
show live?"
So
Like-
it was elections when I was doing the Mac and Chuck
Mhm.
podcast. We had a guy that was running for mayor, and this guy, he was out there.
No.
I mean, he was like, and we only had like 2 or 3 people, I think, that were on the show. They were actually running for mayor of Granite City, which, by the way, Parkinson for mayor. You know, I just, you know, there were just some really weird stuff this guy was saying. Like, he wanted everyone to be happy. I mean, this guy, if there was ever a hippy dippy candidate, I mean, it was this guy right here. And there was no, I'm amazed that the guy even got his like paperwork in on time.
Wow.
You know, but yeah, you just never know what's going to come out of people's mouths, you know. So
Oh, believe me, I know. I sat in that chair and none of us knew what I was going to say my first show.
you broke the show's cherry, that's for sure.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
wow.
Yep.
I
Our
went
favorite
back-
guy dropped the F-bomb.
like 5 times, maybe. I don't know. It was a show. Seriously, you got to
It
go
was a
back and
show.
take a look at that one. That was a good one.
I think that one went like 2.5 hours too.
It did.
Wow.
Was it that long?
It was long.
Yeah, it was
I
a
think it
long
was an hour
show.
and a half.
Maybe an hour and a half, but it was a long show. It was
Yeah.
definitely one of our longer shows.
And I'm looking at trim that down just an hour. I gotta script stuff. Oh man, let me see. What did I do this weekend? This weekend I finished a really, really, really telling book. It was called The New Jim Crow. And this book, man, talk about sucking the air out of this room. I was not prepared, but my old neighborhood was referenced in it in the Stop and Frisk.
Really?
Yeah, Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York. And apparently that was a place that they targeted for Stop and Frisk. And I am very aware that they targeted it for Stop and Frisk because it was 1998. I want to say maybe August. I was walking with a friend to the hospital. Like her aunt had just had surgery,
Mhm.
and 2 police officers pull up in I think it was a Chrysler. It was a minivan. Just pulled up in a minivan, jumped out, guns drawn, and they're like, "Hey, get up against the wall, against the fence." And I'm like, "Oh, this is happening." But yeah, it was interesting to kind of relive that through the lens of the book as to
Mhm.
why it's happening. Basically, the author talks about how slavery didn't end; it just evolved. It morphed into stuff. Getting people into the prison industrial complex, like privatizing prisons, things
Yeah.
of that nature, why it's so profitable. It actually leads to, because of the nature of all of that, a conversation that I'm willing to have tonight. And if you guys will indulge me, it's a pretty interesting conversation. It's a conversation that a lot of Black parents have with their kids, and it's affectionately called The Talk.
Mhm.
And when I talked to some of my white relatives about this, it was like, The Talk? You mean like the birds and the bees? I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, we talked about this before because this was like, if I remember, it's 2 conversations. You know, the conversation between white people about the cops and a conversation between Black people about the cops is
Exactly.
2 completely different
It's 2
conversations.
very
Yeah.
different conversations. And you see it play out rather intriguingly, like on social media, as you see people, like you see white people interact with cops, and I'll tell you, y'all, some of y'all are a mess. It's like, I ain't got to do shit. And I'm like,
We could
officer,
never.
I'm not with him. Like,
Roll your window down. No.
Yeah, roll the window down. Absolutely not. Can you hear me? I'm not rolling it down one more inch. Like, that's just not happening. And it's like, wow, we don't really get to say that. Like, I remember there was one woman who live streamed her boyfriend, and he happened to be her child's father, who the child was in the back seat. And the officer asked, do you have any weapons in the car? And he said, I do. I have a concealed carry license in my glove box, and I have a gun in the car. And the officer shot him. And the little girl was in the back seat. It's okay, mommy. It's going to be okay. And it's like, dude is bleeding out live on Facebook. And it's a bit of a nightmare. But the idea of catching people in non-violent felonies with kind of the intent of suppressing an entire race, gender, class of people, that's really what the book was about. And the talk that I remember I received it at 10, because at 10 years old, I was going to start traveling on the train an hour to go to school. And I was going with my brother, and he's a piece of work. So for all of you family members in Barbados, yes, my brother still is a piece of shit. Anyway,
tell us how you really feel. I mean, we
no,
don't
really,
want you to hold back here, but
no, really, I'd love to punch him in his perfect teeth. The Lord is working on me with that one. Okay. Like, I remember thinking, man, if he needed like a kidney, I'd give it to him just so I could hold it over him. And it was like, Brian, that is not.
Let it go. Let it go.
Right. But basically the talk goes, and if you've read or seen the movie The Hate U Give, it is one of the most, it is actually the catalyst for how that story goes. When confronted by the cops, Black children are supposed to be docile, comply. They are very much just supposed to do whatever it is that is requested of the police. Most often than not, and I learned this through the book, it is a violation of the 4th, 8th, and 14th Amendments. Illegal search and seizures. The 14th Amendment being, all citizens born here, all people born here are citizens. So the idea of putting somebody inside the prison industrial complex, labeling them a felon, and then kind of throwing them back out on the streets without the right of voting, carrying weapons, like you can't carry a firearm, or you can't get a license for that. Most often than not, the ability to apply for and get affordable housing or any kind of federally subsidized housing, food stamps, like all of that is just gone. And for me, it was, don't get loud. I know you kind of have rage issues, Brian, but please, that is not the time to talk about it. That is not the time to like puff your chest. That is not the time, because you get deflated real quick.
Yeah.
And I saw this growing up. It's kind of troubling that it's 2025 and we're still here. Like, the civil rights movement took place throughout the 60s, which was about 60 years ago. And some things have gotten better, but there are a lot of things that have stayed the same. The idea that, like, and I know I stayed away from, I'm not saying I was perfect, but I did stay away from a lot of different types of drugs, because I knew catching a drug charge was the end of everything for me. And my parents, they made it a point to spend a lot of money to send me to schools. Hell, I remember my mom, like, she just recently paid off her student loans because she would take out a student loan, take one class, and then use the rest of the money to send me to school. And Dad handled the bills and stuff at home. And he added to that because it was my brother going to school, myself going to school, and we went to some really prestigious schools. But the idea that mom and dad went to such great lengths to make that happen was really just, thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. I think the best part of this for me is knowing that I can look in the camera and say, thank you, Dad. He'll see it. He'll get teary-eyed. And then because of early onset dementia, he'll see it tomorrow and he'll remember it again.
Yeah.
And it'll be, I'm trying to bring a bit of levity to this, but it's a real serious thing. Back in the 90s, Clinton, in the 80s, when the war on crime was a thing, the idea of Reagan saying it's a war on crime and then suddenly crack ends up in predominantly black neighborhoods and lower income neighborhoods, then the drug sweeps and all that other stuff. So, you know, you have to be mindful, and this is part of the talk, be mindful of who it is that you're hanging around.
Yeah.
I learned, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, so I know that conversation, it needs to be had with everybody, white, black, purple, pink, whatever color you are. I mean, that conversation about authority is, and that's really kind of how the conversation or the talk was brought to my attention. It was a matter of, you know, respect the authority of the cops, you know, and then obviously as you get older, you learn your rights a little bit more, and you kind of learn where you can push and then where you need to not push. And I'm speaking strictly from my perspective here,
Right?
because it's the only perspective I can intelligently talk about.
Right.
You know, my dad, he was like, if you get pulled over, hands on the wheel. If they ask for whatever, just comply.
Yeah, just give it to them.
Just, do whatever they need. Now, being a white kid that grew up in Granite City in the 80s and 90s, in my class, we had 2 black students in the entire high school.
Wow.
2. One of them was actually student council president, Brett Ware. He was one of the student council president. I think he was the student council president for one of the years. And then there was a young lady, her name was Erica. She was in special needs. Both of them great people, but we only had 2. So really the only perspective I can bring to this is coming from an all white community. Okay. We were taught to respect authority, whether it was, parents, teachers, cops, or whatever, or you get your ass whipped when you get home.
Literally, yes.
And my dad just flat out told me, he's like, if you ever get arrested, he's like, don't call me because you're going to sit there all overnight.
Literally what my mom told me.
And, but the thing of it is, and I think, and again, I mean, this is a very touchy and very serious conversation to have. And, let me be clear, from this moment, I'm speaking directly from my point of view, what I know from speaking with, other, black friends. And we've had this conversation before,
Right.
That talk needs to be, I feel, the same across the board.
Right.
Now, are there bad cops out there? 100%. If a police officer is going to shoot a man because the guy told him that he had and it was live, because he has a concealed carry permit and he has a weapon, that man, that cop needs to be gone.
Right.
Period. And all this crap about, well, protect the thin blue line. If you got a bad cop on your squad or whatever, rat his ass out and get him out of there.
Do the same thing at Home Depot.
Yeah. I mean, just any of them. And I don't care if the cop is black, white, or whatever.
Right.
They're there to serve and protect everybody. Okay, like the citizens of this country. That's what their job is there for. And sometimes their job is to remove people from society, briefly, arrest or detain them because maybe they're causing problems.
Right.
I do think that there needs to be plausible evidence that, holds them accountable for that. I think that the conversation needs to be both with our kids, that you just respect authority. And unfortunately, the black community has had to deal with a lot of prejudice. They've had to deal with a lot of stereotypical thoughts and things like that, which puts people on edge
Mhm.
sometimes. If a cop walks up to somebody and he doesn't have his hand showing or whatever, and he puts his hand on his firearm, he's trying to protect himself at that point, and I don't care if you're a white guy or a black guy, whatever, if you're showing your ass in your car and the cop shoots you, legitimately shoot you or whatever, and I don't even know you should be shooting someone in a car unless they've actually got their hand on a weapon, but that's a whole other thing. The societal responsibilities, I think, between everybody is we all need to be smart about the things we're doing. We need to be aware of our surroundings and where we're at. It would be like if I were to walk through East St. Louis in the middle of the night, okay, or at night, that is not a wise decision for me to do. I can say that because I've been in East St. Louis at night, and it was not pleasurable. I had a friend of mine that was over there. He got ran down the street because he was white. No one knew what he was. He got ran down the street because he was white until he was able to get in his car and leave.
Right.
Just because of the color of his skin. He wasn't doing anything. And I'm not calling reverse prejudice because prejudice is prejudice. I don't care if,
Right.
it just is what it is. I think the same thing about just be aware of your surroundings and where you're going and what you're doing. Smart decisions, I think, save lives of every color of skin. But I think that there's another conversation that has to be had, and it's more about policing your own community. Okay, and it's the same thing with with white people. Okay, it's the same thing. It's like if you have some guy who's a redneck that's a jackass that's causing issues with someone else, because of the color of their skin, call his ass out on it. Just say, hey, look, shut the hell up. You don't know the guy, and he's just walking down the street. Leave him alone. The same thing is, with the black community. If you see someone doing something that they shouldn't be doing, maybe call them out on it, hold them accountable. Same thing with white people, same thing with cops.
Mm-hmm.
To my comment earlier, that if you got a cop or someone in a authoritative position that's abusing their authority, call them out on it. And again, it doesn't matter what color they are. Morgan Freeman made a great comment, and I wouldn't say this unless I saw the guy say it on TV. They were talking about
Right.
Black History Month,
Mm-hmm.
and Morgan Freeman's like, I don't want a Black History Month. He's like, do you have a Jewish History Month? He's like, no. And he's like, well, Black history is American history,
Mhm.
and I kind of feel that way, that we need to start looking each other more as human beings, holding each other accountable for doing the right thing. And I know that doing the right thing can be across the board as far as what's right, where your set of morals come from. That's a whole other thing.
Right.
But I think until we start, and I'm not a flower child here, whatever, I think until we start reaching out grace to each other and, stop judging people, right beforehand, then I think that we're going to see, first of all, that, and maybe I'm wrong, call me out on this if I am, maybe the media is hyping things up way too much, and they're actually causing more of the division between races than anybody is, including white people and black people. But I think that if we start holding each other accountable and policing our own communities, I don't think we're going to see a lot of change. And Brian, I agree with you. Here in 2025, we should be dealing with half the crap that we're dealing with, on a racial note. I guess my question would be, or my challenge would be, is where do we change that? How do we change that? And where does it start? We know that it started back in the 60s, and there's been great progress, come from there. But where do we get from where we're at now into, and we're never going to have a utopian society, but where we can actually respect other people for their own character and their own beliefs as opposed to what they look like.
So in terms of kind of managing your own community, Huey P. Newton, I think was his name. He was the founder of the Black Panther Party, leader of the Black Panther Party. And his idea was, we are going to protect our community from everything.
Mhm.
Bad cops, we're going to make sure that everybody is fed. It was a community thing, and that's what it was. With the fall of the Black Panther Party, that led to two gangs that kind of spawned from that, the Crips and the Bloods. Now, it's interesting because I remember in preparing for this show and preparing for the talk that I did yesterday at the book club, CRIP is actually an acronym. It means Community Revolution in Progress.
Okay.
And that was the whole point. It was, okay, well, we are going to continue to move the community forward. If you ask any kid who plays to be a Crip now, yo, what does it mean? Yo, man, it means we Crip. Okay. And what does that mean?
Right.
We stand on
blue.
business.
We like blue.
We love blue. Like, oh, okay.
We hate red.
Yeah. And it's like, what? Well, the Blood stood for another thing. I was trying to look that up right here, but it ended up being infiltrated and bastardized to the point where it's now just it's a color game. It's more division than anything else. It's not community. It's more, well, I stand here on this block and you can't walk up in this block wearing that color. Like I remember I could not wear blue jeans when I lived in Brooklyn. Like through high school, through junior high, I could not wear blue jeans. I did not know they made jeans in green. But Tommy the Green Ranger, he had some, and my mom found me some, and I got a chance to rock some green jeans. And I remember at one point when I was away at school, I found them. They were tucked away somewhere, and they had $5 in it. I don't remember putting $5 in it. But anyway, I digress. My brother had a pair of purple jeans. I was like, what? How does that even come about?
He had a Crip mom and a Crip dad. Or a Blood dad, so.
Yeah, right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It was the whole Romeo and Juliet.
It was,
of
the
gang
Capulets
scene,
and the Montagues. Yeah, but that was like black, purple, green we could do, but we couldn't wear blue jeans or red jeans. And that was...
Well, red jeans are so gauche anyway.
They are. Looking like Mr. Brown. The red leather pants. But yeah, just the idea that we have to have the talk, and it's less about, hey, respect authority, and it's more like, if you want to live, you'll listen to everything. And The Hate U Give, I remember reading the book, I saw the movie, and then I got to see Angie Thomas do a talk at McKendree University. The main character, her best friend, like they met up at this party and they're leaving because a fight breaks out. Okay, so they're leaving. They get pulled over by the cops. The cops are very cognizant of there was a fight. They're trying to figure stuff out. They ask the kids out of the car, and that's real. They're kids. They're like 17 years old. And the boy, her friend, he reaches into the car to get a hairbrush, and the cop calls gun, and shoots the kid and kills him right there. And that's the catalyst for the rest of the story. Like there's a riot, there's everything. And it's a story that's been told too many times before, because you have, like Mike Brown up in Ferguson. God, there's so many. Trayvon Martin. There are just so many children, black children, who've just been cut down in the streets. Hell, was his name Amir? He was going for a jog, and
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
and he was a football player. Just, I'm going to train, and he gets shot by two gung-ho residents who didn't think that he belonged there. And it's like, and things are happening at the same rate that they were happening before. The only difference is everyone's got a phone.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a
Exactly.
phone. They've got a data plan. They're filming this.
Yeah.
So what was, as a female, what was the talk that you got from like your parents?
Well, my mom really didn't give me the talk. It was more so my brother. She didn't ever think that I would put myself in the situation or be in the situation, because she knows, like, you know how you have two kids and one of them is like okay, and then the other one's gonna give you
knucklehead.
hell. She knew my brother was gonna be that person. So my brother stayed in St. Louis till he was 18, I think. So before that, she gave him the talk and told him, like, hey, if the cops ever, pull you over, or if you ever just walk in randomly, just like comply and do what you're supposed to do. Don't go crazy. Don't get an attitude. Don't talk back, Now, I'm the oldest of 4 brothers. 3 are in St. Louis and 1 is in Colorado now. So being that I'm the oldest of 4 brothers, with the Mike Brown shooting and all that, it just like freaked me out, because I'm like, okay, I have brothers, and most of them walk around St. Louis. The youngest one, he's 13 now, so like I worry about him the most, because these teenagers these days, they're doing dumb stuff, and they have TikTok now, so they're doing all these things.
Yeah.
But I remember my younger brother asking my mom why he couldn't wear hoodies down the street, or walking down the street with his hood up. She's always tell him to put his hood down. Don't walk with your hood, and he was like, well, why? Because like, that's what it's made for if I'm cold. And so she had to break it down and just tell him about what happened, like to a kid who was going to the store, who was coming back from the store. He had a tea and some Skittles, but he had a hood on, and they thought he was a threat. So for me, it wasn't the talk. For me, it was just hearing my mom, and then like because I had one brother on my mom's side, and then the other ones were on my dad's side. So it's like hearing my grandma tell my little brothers, don't be out late, and and if the police mess with you, this is what you do, and that's what you do. And just like having to tell kids nowadays what to do, when it should be, if I see a police, I'm supposed to feel protected. Like, I'm not supposed to be afraid.
Right.
Even myself now, like, I know I got my insurance on my car is good. Everything's good. Everything's in my name. But if a police pull up behind me, I'm like, oh shit. Okay. Just because of that fear of, okay, if they, I remember one time I was going to Quick Trip to get gas. It was about 9:30-ish. And I knew I didn't want to get gas in the morning, because, that is such a fail to say I'm going to get gas in the morning. So it's like, let me go get gas now. Well, my license plate light was out. And this is right around the time all the shootings were happening. What was her name? Sandra, was it?
I know who you're talking about.
Yes.
She got arrested, and she was in the back of the.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was right around that time, and my license plate light was out, and the cop like scooped up behind me like real quick, and I'm like, okay, he turned his lights on real quick, and I was like, okay. So I pulled into the Quick Trip where I was going, and I immediately turned the car off, and I was just like, I raised all my windows down, all 4 of them, and I was just like this the whole time. And he was like, license and registration, and I was like, I don't feel comfortable reaching to get it. I was like, you can open my door, because I always put my purse like around my headrest, so the purse is like, it's visible if they need to reach in and get it. And he was like, why are you so afraid? He was like, it's fine. And I'm like, no, because like I see what be happening, and it's just like, I know that I'm not a criminal. I've never had a record. I've never been in a police car. I've never done anything. But it's just that instant fear of, okay, I just got pulled over by the cops. Like, I don't want to be on the news. So I was like, you can reach in. So he reached in, he got my license. He ran everything. He said, your insurance is good. And he was like, well, the reason why I stopped you is because people have been stealing cars around here, and they're taking the license plate light out. He was like, I'm going to need you to fix that.
I've been pulled over for that myself.
Yeah. But I'm like, there's no indicator. How am I supposed to know that my license plate light is out? I'm just like, okay. But he let me go. And I had to just sit there for a minute, because I'm like, that could have easily went the wrong way. He could have said that I was resisting arrest or I was resisting like his commands or whatever, because he was, and I'm just like, because I was just like, no, I'm not moving, like, you can do this. And he was like, well, you don't have to be so afraid. And I'm like, I kind of do, so I went in the gas station and got my gas, and the clerk was like, are you okay? I saw the whole thing. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm okay. And I just got my gas and I went home. But it was just, and I'm nowhere near like a criminal. I don't do anything. Sure. I don't, but it was just one of those things where like, I was like, this could go bad.
So I guess my question on things like that is hearing your story, and you're scared, you're nervous, you just got pulled over, by an officer or whatever. And I would imagine that the adrenaline that was going through your body and the concern and nervousness that was going through your body, it's probably doubled, if not quadrupled, in a black man who gets pulled over. So my question to that would be, is you've got two very nervous people here. One is definitely armed, and the other one may or may not be armed. The officer, they're going to carry a weapon with them, right? The problem is that he's nervous because he doesn't know what he's walking up on, white, black, or whatever. The person in the car, especially if they're anxious or if they're scared, nervous, and things like that, and you get this energy between two people. And then you've got this stereotype of the black male and the stereotype of the cop. The driver is afraid that the cop's going to shoot him for no reason. The cop is afraid that the guy in the car or the girl in the car is going to shoot him for no reason. Okay. Or that he's concerned that they're going to get scared. Their mind's going to run away with them. And then they're going to act irrationally, which shooting someone for no reason is an irrational act.
Yep.
So you've got these energies that are combining and working against each other. They're not working with each other, right? So my question is, within the blue community and within the African American community, black community, however you want to word it, is like, how do we stop that, and how do we get to a point where you're always going to have assholes, black, white, or whatever, it doesn't matter. We need to get to a point where we're not battling those energies back and forth. We need to get to a point where the cop's not afraid that they're going to get shot or drawn on or something like that, and the driver of the car needs to be concerned, or needs to not be concerned that just because of the color of their skin that they're going to get shot or whatever. It's kind of the same feeling that no, that's not true, because I've never had that issue. Even when I've been pulled over by a black officer, I've never been concerned I was going to get shot or harmed, by a black officer. But, where does it start in the community? And I'm talking the global community, or at least the national community here. Where does it start where we can kind of alleviate those concerns and just kind of break that stereotype? Like where do we get, where do we start to break that stereotype?
Well, I would say, no matter what color you are, when you see a police, you're not supposed to have that nervousness, but you have that because we're supposed to, when we see a cop, we're supposed to say, okay, this cop has been trained to protect and serve.
Right. Identify a threat, protect themselves.
Right. Yes. Now, I feel like when a cop goes through training, they are trained to not, go up to a car and be like, oh, this person may kill me. Like, they're supposed to have that. They're supposed to be calm no matter what, because they go through the training. They do all the things. Now, when
nervous energy makes bad things happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. But they train for that. And I'm not trying to say it's an excuse, but they train for that. That's just like with me and my job. I train for the things that happen, and I'm supposed to know how to handle them.
What do you do, just real quick?
I'm an orthopedic technician at Cardinal Glennon. I'm supposed to know how to, deal with erratic children. I'm supposed to know how to not go crazy and
grab them by the throat and put them against the wall.
Listen, I had a situation about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I had to keep my cool. So I'm trained. So even if I know, and that kid
You out here fighting kids
crazy.
your height.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Damn, man.
That kid came back in today, and I knew how to handle the situation. I
Yeah.
just handed him off to somebody else because
Yeah.
I was like, no.
Avoidance. That's awesome.
That kid is not supposed to. He didn't come in today and say, "Oh, that's the lady who got mad at me," because he never knew that I was upset. Because
Yeah.
I'm trained that way.
Yeah.
Even though I know he's gonna attack me, he's gonna do the things. I'm trained to. Even when he did attack me, I just sat there and I took it because I'm supposed to. Now I feel like we're supposed to be able to feel the same way when we see a cop or get pulled over by a cop. But nowadays you have these cops who, one, the training is not as near as good as it should be, because I have a friend who's a cop and he was in training for some weeks and they just put him out in the street, and his first time out in the street was when they had all those protests on Grand. And that was his first like week out there. They don't train the cops how they should, so therefore when they don't get the proper training, they go out on these streets and they see people acting erratically and all that, and then they just they act without thinking because they haven't had the proper training. So one, I feel like if the police academy would do better at training their cops, it's like a domino effect, because if they don't have the correct training that they're supposed to have, they don't know how to treat somebody who's acting,
So what do you attribute that to? Do you attribute that to funding? Do you attribute that to
Oh.
laziness on the police
Ronald
part?
Reagan.
Or
funding, laziness,
Oh no.
people not
I'm so
caring
serious.
about their jobs anymore. People just don't care because they don't get paid. The first thing you'll hear a cop say is, I don't get paid enough for this shit. Like, seriously, like that's the first thing they'll say. And I know it because I have uncles that are cops. I have friends that are cops. And like, if they feel like they're not getting the compensation that they need, they're not going to go all in. Whereas you used to have cops who would get paid less than what our cops get paid now, but go all in on the job. So it all starts with that. And then also with these little knucklehead kids out here, it starts at home. You got grandmas, great grandmas, now they're like 30, who can't teach these kids anything. So like, honestly, you said, how do we get to the point to where, I don't even know if it will, because we don't have the cops getting trained, and the ones that are getting trained, they don't care. Like, you got cops now that are like, I'm like, are you even old enough to be a cop? Like, it's
21 Jump Street.
Yeah, it's like the new generation of people who don't care, who haven't gotten that old soul like teaching, So then you have these teenagers out here who are doing things and thinking that they can overshadow the cops and they can do this and talk to them any type of way, and then when something happens, the mom's on the news like, oh, my baby. But what happened in the home to where your baby was out in the street selling drugs, doing this and doing that? And sometimes I get where kids are, I gotta do what I gotta do, but like, so honestly, like, between the cops not getting the proper training and these
and pay, so what you're telling me, you're telling me training and pay is a hindrance to them doing their job.
Definitely. And because I've heard cops say it, I know cops. And then you got, like I said, 30-year-old grandmas who, because their daughters are not taking care of their kids, now they're trying to take care of the kids, and they grow up to be like little, erratic kids. So it's like that question you asked, I don't even know if there's a middle ground. I don't know if we can get back to it, because it's become like so far off in the distance. Like, I don't know if there's a way to come back to it. So
to address two things: one, if a cop ever feels he's not getting paid enough, get another job. And if a chief or someone ever has one of their officers verbalize, I don't get paid enough for this shit, give me your badge and your gun, get the hell out of the precinct.
Like, I need you to do something else other than be here.
But they for one thing, that they're short.
Well, that brings us to the other
like
part,
6'1",
the pay part.
6'2".
A lot of people don't want to do that type of job, because it's a dangerous job.
Yes.
For everybody, it's a dangerous job, because you get some cracked out white guy that's slinging a knife around. I mean, you're still in danger, right? So, do officers get paid enough? No, I don't think that they do. I don't think teachers get paid enough either for the crap that they have to deal with. So if you don't want to be there, get another job. Okay, if you think you can make better money flipping burgers or whatever, by all means, McDonald's and Taco Bell are hiring all the time.
All the time.
You know, so that's the first thing I would say. That's an attitude adjustment that needs to happen. And I really think if you do that to enough people, that they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, either A, maybe I don't want to do this, or it's not what I thought it was. So see ya. Okay.
Mhm.
As far as the pay goes, I mean, we've this last 4 or 5 years, you know, and again, I don't know if the media was overplaying their hand or whatever, but you know, where was I going with this? I'm sorry. You know, as far as the pay goes, we've got idiots that are out there screaming, well, defund the police. That's a crock of shit right there, if you ask me. I mean, you do not need to defund the people who are walking around with guns and that are taking care of our community, because I promise you there are a lot more good cops out there
Mhm.
than there are the bad cops.
Mm.
You know, and that's with everything. You're dealing with people, attitudes, and everything else, you know, they vary. You know, the reason we hear so much about the bad cops is because it makes the news.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
sensationalized.
It's
sexy.
sensationalism. And I'm going to say something here that is going to piss a lot of people off. I already know this, okay?
Go for it.
Because when you look at statistics or whatever, statistics lie. I'm sorry, I don't care what anyone says, but statistics lie. And here's why I say this, because I was very curious about this one day, because they were all like, you know, well, the African American, and this is news talk, the African American community just being decimated by the number of police shootings. The year I looked this up, I looked up like the last 4 years. Let's talk about people. Piss on statistics for a minute, okay? Who do you think died more of? More white people shot by the cops or more black people shot by the
If you're
cops?
talking about pure number, probably white people.
It was white people by an astronomical amount.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
makes
probably,
sense though.
Yeah, probably because there are more white people,
Right.
right? But when you get down to it and you talk about people, we're still talking about people, black or white. There are people who have lost their lives. That's what we need to be focused on.
No matter
That
the color.
is what's that?
I said no matter the color.
Exactly.
And that is a massive number, and that increases that number of poor performing policemen, bad cops, whatever you want to do. And I know a lot of people don't like what Elon Musk is doing or whatever right now, but with all this money that, you know, is being sent out to places who don't need it, and I'm not talking about the programs that are helping the people here in the country. I'm talking about the billions of dollars that we're sending overseas for a bunch of bullshit, right? If you take that money and instead of redistributing, or if you take that money instead of giving every person in the country $5,000, you know, why don't we take that money and we reallocate it to places here in the state so we can better train our police officers, better train our students, and better train just our children? Because you say you don't know if it's going to change or not. It can change.
It's not profitable, Chuck.
It's not. And that's the problem with the prison systems also. Once prisons became profitized, they lose their functionality.
Mhm.
They don't want you to be reformed. If you're reformed, you're not coming back. And if you're not coming back, they're not getting money for you. If you go out, you commit a crime, and then you come back, guess what? They're making more money.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm not a fan of the privatized prison system at all. But if we're going to influence change, you're right. It has to be done at home, across everybody. You know, white kids need to be taught that black people are not our enemies. You know, they're not out to kill us. You know, just because you see a black man walking down the street doesn't mean you need to turn and walk the other way.
Mhm.
You know, that's not what it means. You know, I feel, and again, I can't talk about, you know, black families because I'm not in one. I have black relatives, but I'm not in a black family,
Right.
right? You know, it needs to be taught that, you know, white people are not your enemies. Cops are not your enemies. There are bad cops out there. There are white cops that will shoot white people just as quick as they'll shoot a black person just because they want to, you know, shoot their guns or do whatever, you know. I agree. I think that the training needs to be improved. And I think that community nationally, white, black, Indian, it doesn't matter, needs to be re-educated. I guess if that's the way you want to do it.
I'll
You
give
know.
you that. I'll say this. You know, I got into an elevator the other day,
Mhm.
and this old white woman like clutched her purse, and I was like, "Oh, it's just me and her. This is really awkward," because now she's pulling.
You're
I'm
pulling.
You guys have seen that joke. Anyway, no, but the reason I say it's not profitable, the stop and frisk, the idea that, and I mentioned Reagan earlier. When Reagan did his war on drugs, the drug issue wasn't that big a deal yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then crack hit. And all crack is a lower, lesser potent form of cocaine. It's cocaine and baking soda, and it vaporizes really easily.
Yeah.
And you get a high, but it's not as long. And okay. Well, cocaine.
And I'm well aware. Let me just stop you right there.
Mhm.
Talking about the crack, the whole crack epidemic, and that
Mhm.
I am very well aware, and I believe that the government is what placed that within the Black community.
Literally, yes.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Okay, cool. So, and this is the information that I got from this book, The New Jim Crow. When police do a stop and frisk, they get the opportunity to earn $153 for every collar. So the idea is, okay, they get $153, but it's so much bigger than that because now, I mean, I don't know if you've seen like SWAT tanks rolling through a neighborhood, like that is all part of the funding that police departments get when they do like a stop and frisk or they do a collar or something. Oh, a drug bust. And the thing that really blew my mind was, have you seen the movie Training Day?
Mhm.
Yes, Ethan
Okay.
Hawke and Denzel
Ethan Hawke and
Washington.
Denzel
Yeah.
Washington. So in that scene, they end up in that movie. There's a scene where they end up shooting a guy in a chair, and they steal like $2 million that he had under his floorboard. Okay, well, when the police make a collar like that, and it's drug related, they get to keep that as assets. So let's not go for the big drug
I want
dealers.
to challenge
yet.
you on that.
Okay,
They get
go
to-
for it.
They get to keep it. So, just say they bring in $2 million
Mhm.
on a bus. That police station gets to keep that $2 million.
How do you think the city of Pontoon Beach went from a rickety little police station to brand new cruisers and SWAT team stuff?
I don't know.
And
That's why I'm challenging.
They
that.
did,
Yes.
I
they did
don't
a
know.
bust at the truck stop, and it was huge.
Yep, and they got to keep the money.
Yep.
And with that collar, they get the federal funding, as I mentioned, $153 per collar. So let's rack up the collars. We do 10 collars a day. That's $1,500.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Take it a step further now. That comes to a conviction. That comes to a bust. We actually of somebody. Okay, great. So now the lower level guys, they don't really get out.
Mhm.
So they start to either work as CIs, informants,
Right.
or they rat out higher level guys. That gets them to those bigger busts. That gets them to keep that massive amount of money. And they keep like 80% of it, and the rest goes towards, whatever else. But you figure $2 million. Okay, great. Well, we're going to keep 80% of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. That's $1.6 million that our force now gets to get a tank and
Yep.
all the gear and the.
I would be interested to see what the numbers look like now that most police departments across the nation have made body cams mandated.
Mm.
Because, I mean, there's a large amount of stuff that you can get away with when there's no video being recorded.
Mhm.
But when you know that you've got a video that you have to turn in, and that everybody else has got cameras and stuff like that too, I'd like to see what the numbers have gone from since that became kind of a mandate, because I bet they've gone down. Now, I'm not saying that things have gotten overwhelmingly better, but I feel for both sides, and I'm not even like just the color thing. I think that cops have an incredibly difficult job, and it is
It's
scary.
hard.
Mhm.
And yeah, you did sign up for it. So part of me is like, okay, well, you signed up for that, and you know that you could go out and something could go wrong at any time. So yeah, you're going to be apprehensive, and you got to think, it's like the same thing that I used to try to explain to guys that worked under my management when they would complain about, every piece of equipment that we have is bad. Our equipment sucks. I'm like, no, you can't say that, because you're the equipment repairman. You see all of the bad equipment.
Right.
Like you're the only one that repairs it, so you can't say it sucks. We've got a 90% or 90+% no failure rate. Like, you're just fixing everything that's broke. With the cops, they see all the bad all the time, more so than any of us ever will.
Yeah.
So of course they've got this inherent scared, but I also lean towards the training and the de-escalation, because I've seen a lot of things like on YouTube and Reels and TikToks and stuff where there was immediate lack of de-escalation on the part of the officer. You can't expect the citizen to de-escalate because they're not trained to, but you are.
Right.
Yeah.
And, there have been a lot of instances of escalation in these situations where they got to a violent stance. And a lot of those got to that level because the officer continued to provoke the individual.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're only human. If you stopped a person for a traffic violation, it's a traffic violation. I've said this time and again, you as the officer, it's not your job to be offended by whatever crime they committed. It's just your job to process that crime.
Right.
Like, hey, you ran a red light. I'm not pissed that you ran a red light. I frankly don't care that you ran a red light. You murdered somebody. I have to stop you because you murdered somebody, but I'm not taking that personally. I'm not taking it personally that you knocked off Walmart or Walgreens or whatever. You robbed the place. Now you have to face the consequences for that. But you see a lot of these videos where, and I get it, they're human too. They start taking it personally, like, oh, it's a grudge against me and I got to take care of this and vigilante. No. Your job is to process and let the judge and the jury take care of the rest of it. You are not the sentencer. You are not the one doling out punishment.
Right.
None of that. Your job is to grab the person, detain them, and let the justice system finish it off.
Have you seen U.S. Marshals?
Yep.
So there was a line in there that kind of like that was it? No, it wasn't
Tommy
U.S.
Lee
Marshals.
Jones?
Yeah, it wasn't U.S. Marshals. It was the original
The
one.
Fugitive?
The Fugitive,
Mhm.
where Harrison Ford was like, I didn't do it. And Tommy Lee Jones was like, I don't care.
Yep.
I don't care that you didn't do it. It's my job to bring you in.
That's
You
literally
know,
all I
so-
got to do.
Tell that to a judge, tell it to a jury. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, okay, you didn't kill the person. I'm here to bring you in so that you can tell other people that I don't care. But you see so many of these videos, and again, it's another situation where all the videos that we see online are the less than 1% of interactions that are
Right.
actually happening out there. So
Yeah.
you see them and you're like, oh, I can't believe the police are doing that. Well, that's not most police.
No, it's just
Right.
this one instance of this one police,
Right.
but you've been in an algorithm where you're seeing this.
Yeah,
so consistently.
now you're seeing all the bad, but what I do see of the bad is a lot of opportunity for de-escalation from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the one where they pull up and the guy's obviously done something horrendous and needs to be thrown in the back of a cop car, but
Yeah.
like I'm talking about the ones where like it was a traffic violation, they were speeding or their taillight was out or something like that. And the whole situation from the first part of the interaction was arrogant and unnecessary. And it just escalated everything to the point where now we're dragging somebody out of a car and all those things. But then again, I've also seen those, like we've all seen the, what do they call themselves? Sovereign citizens, where they'll throw a piece of paper up on the glass and I ain't rolling my window down and I got the right to do that. Like, no, you're stupid. And you're doing that to yourself. But on the part of the officers, the ones where they do that, I mean, you can just clearly see, like anybody who watches this video can tell that de-escalation from the beginning would have avoided all of this.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Yeah.
At the worst, you got a ticket for a brake light that's out. And honestly, like she said earlier, nobody walks around their car before they get in checking all their lights and everything. It's not a thing. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
It should be a feature in every vehicle. If there's an indicator device that's out, no matter what it is, it should tell you which one's out, period.
Yeah.
It should be mandatory as backup cameras are now.
Right.
And for a police officer, now, don't get me wrong, if I told you last week, bro, your taillight's out, let you go. Have a nice day. And then 2 weeks later, another officer pulls up and your taillight's still out, you need to get a ticket because apparently a fine is the only way to get you to take care of it. Now, instead of your brake light costing $15, it's going to cost $115.
And
Yeah.
that
Congratulations.
sucks.
But even then, if I pull up as the officer and I pull out and I'm like, well, this guy had a warning for this 2 weeks ago. And I pull, I'm like, bro, the last guy warned you about it. Unfortunately, I got to give you a ticket.
Right.
So here's your ticket, blah, blah, blah. Get the light taken care of.
I
You know,
think-
I shouldn't be mad. Why am I mad?
Yeah.
You know?
I think people forget that they can't talk to cops any type of way because they are supposed to be there to give us authority.
Mhm.
But I also feel like cops forget that they have a taser. They forget that they have nightsticks, and they go straight for the gun. Like,
Yep.
if you're not in a situation where somebody's pointing a gun at you and you don't clearly see the gun, you should not be throwing a gun. You're trained to fight them. You're trained to restrain them. You're trained to do everything first. Your weapon is my friend told me this, who's a cop. Your weapon is the last
Mhm.
thing you're supposed to use
Mhm.
unless you feel like your life is in danger.
And it seems as though in these situations, officers walk up and my life could be in danger right here, right now. So let me just go to the highest. And I'll tell you, have any of you guys ever had a gun pulled on you? Unsettling.
Oh, of course.
Well, I would imagine. Thankfully, I've not. I've thought
I've
had a gun pulled, but it wasn't. It wasn't.
I've
but
had many a Nerf gun pulled on me.
had a what? Mini
Yeah.
Nerf gun.
Nerf guns.
Those are dangerous, man.
I've
Poke
seen
an
it
eye out with that
happen.
thing.
I've seen it happen to people in front of me, but never towards me.
Yeah, it is
But I've seen it
unsettling.
happen to people.
Well, and
in
I
front of me.
don't know. I'm sure there are some mandates out there, but I would say that you need to make it like, okay, so you're an officer and you've been given some serious authority. You have the authority to take away somebody's freedom, and you have the ultimate authority to take away somebody's life if they're threatening yours or threatening someone else's.
Mhm.
But there needs to be a clear set of rules laid out that are just zero tolerance. They don't budge. They don't bend no matter what. Everybody's got body cams on, so we know what happened in the situation. If you escalate to pulling your firearm, not your taser, not a can of mace, not a baton, whatever, but you escalate to pull your firearm, there has to be a clear and present danger that your life is going to be at risk. Like if I pull up and I pull somebody over for a traffic stop and they reach over abruptly or whatever, and you feel danger, like this is going to get dangerous, you can still fire your taser into that car and not end that person's life and stop them from shooting you. Like, but if it's me to you and you reach in your pocket and pull out a gun, well, then now it's a game of quick draw because you're going to shoot me, and the taser may not stop you from pulling the trigger, even if I get my taser out before you get your gun out. There's a difference there, but that needs to be like, listen, your last line of defense is this firearm. And it can't be like it is over in the UK where like they don't carry around firearms because you're just going to get slaughtered. Like that's just not a thing. That's the silliest stuff that I've ever heard. But anyway, like it just needs to be like, hey, these are the rules and there's no tolerance. And if we watch your body cam footage and you used your service weapon in an inappropriate situation, you're done and there's going to be charges. And nobody's going to protect you from that. It's not a good old boys club anymore because it's all on video and it has to be submitted. And I also think that if something happens to your body cam footage, you're done.
That's another thing. They hide it within the system because they help their own.
Nope,
And see-
that can't be. There can be no budging on that. If you lose
Yeah.
your body cam footage, like okay, if your body cam breaks and nothing happened during the thing, like whatever, I get that. But if there's an intense situation and your body cam footage is lost, you're done.
Yeah, I think so. There are a couple things there, and I know we're coming up on time here
Yeah.
before too long. But and we got to talk about the whole reason I'm here tonight. But I think in a situation where these guys are out there making life or death, whether it's their life or whoever they're encountering with life, they're making life or death decisions in an instant.
I agree.
And now
That's rough.
here's the problem with the tasers. The two things. Let's say that the perp, let's call him a perp. Why not?
Okay.
Okay. Let's say the perp has a knife. Okay.
Mhm.
And the cop has a taser. Okay. And he's supposed to use his taser first. I've seen some of these videos
where
where
they
these
that's
tasers,
rough.
they'll grab it and throw
I
it
would-
right out. Now,
I would justify that though. Like, and when I talk about like a clear cut set of rules, like, listen, you would be surprised how quick I could get out of this chair and come at you with a knife. And if you have a holstered weapon on your side,
yes,
I might have that knife in your chest before
21
you
feet.
get it out.
I believe
like-
I believe it's 21 feet from person to person. And not only that,
Yeah.
but if you get to pull your taser, you have enough time to pull your taser or pull your service weapon.
And I would believe in
Okay.
that situation, it would be service weapon.
Right. But here's the thing. The guy may not have an actual knife or something like that. Okay. He may have something in maybe he's going for his license
But he ain't
whatever.
lunging at you with his license.
No, it doesn't matter if his hand's behind his back. And, because some people carry their weapons behind them, some carry them in front of them on the side, or whatever. That officer has to make a split-second decision. Is this guy going to pull a knife? Is he getting his wallet? Is he getting his gun? Like, what's he doing? And between the distance of them, it doesn't matter. Sometimes you have to make a decision and I know that they're trained shoot to kill. I don't completely understand that. Shoot someone in the leg or whatever, but whatever.
Because when you're coked out or cracked out or whatever it is, and
there is that.
Did you ever watch that one video where it was a big guy and he was like outside of McDonald's and he was just in the McDonald's, like causing all kinds of craziness.
Yeah.
And 3 officers out there, all 3 of them tased him, and he was just pulling them off and walking away like nothing, like he was being like stung by bees or something. It was like
I've heard
he was
stories
just
of
crazy.
guys getting shot and it not phasing him or whatever, but they've got to make those split-second decisions.
Yeah.
And I agree 100% with you. If someone gets shot and you shot them and your camera footage is gone, your ass is out.
Yep.
I don't care. I don't know. I'm not sure how they, dishonorable, honorable, or whatever. If you have a situation like that, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. Sucks for you that your camera went down right at the moment that, all this was going down, but find a new career at that point.
Yeah. The issue that I've seen is officer is dishonorably discharged in New York. Okay, cool. He moves to Wyoming and gets a job in law enforcement there.
He should not be able to.
No,
Right.
that should be like a background check.
Yeah, that
Like,
should be a federal ban.
Right.
You know,
And I've seen
so-
it happen where they'll just like, well, they were a bad seed here, so they moved to another state, and they're bad seed there, and they moved to another state. And then, it's like 9 or 10 jurisdictions later, and it's like, oh, yeah, he killed 3 people.
You know what's going to happen? This is exactly what's going to happen. This is going to be an unsolvable problem, and we're going to have freaking Tesla robots pulling people over.
Oh God.
Saw that in RoboCop. It didn't
No, I mean,
end
like,
well.
no, seriously, like, because you program a robot, like, the robot doesn't care if you shoot it.
No.
And now you're on footage of destroying police property, so you're even more screwed, and it's got all your information, and it sees you, and it's like, okay, the robot isn't pissed off that you ran a red light. The robot's not mad that you just
Has no feelings
ran
about
into
it
a
at all.
school bus full of children. It's just taking you in, like
Yeah,
no
and
emotions, pure rules.
I see that. Yeah, and I see the Optimus robots
Mm-hmm.
more so, filling, those kind of roles. Like I do see that. I don't know that that's going to happen in my lifetime. I'm a little older than everybody here.
No, but it's moving
You know,
fast, man.
It is moving fast.
It's moving
scary
incredibly
fast, but
fast.
I'm sure that's a whole other show. you know,
Yeah,
but
it's moving so fast.
I just there is a solution. The problem with it is it's going to take work from everybody, and we don't want to do it.
I feel like we all it sounds so cliche to say it, but if everybody would just get on the same accord and just come together, things would be so much better. But you got so many people hating everybody and hating each
Different
other.
agendas. It's
Yeah.
different agendas.
Agendas. That's it right
Yeah.
there. And that's where our biggest enemy here. And you know what? I'm gonna look directly at you guys, and I'm gonna say this. And I know that you're part of this. I'm going to be part of this again or whatever. The media is our biggest enemy.
Agreed.
I don't care what anyone says. You probably hate someone because of something you heard on the news. And that's the only reason you hate them. That's the only reason you have this biased opinion towards someone is because you heard it on the news and you heard it pounded and pounded. Cop shoots black man.
Right.
That's what you hear a lot. You don't hear a lot
Unarmed
of,
black man.
huh?
Unarmed black
Unarmed
man.
black man. You don't hear about, the other stuff that's not as controversial, but that's what you hear, and that's what's pushed in because that's the narrative that the media wants to portray in this country for the last 20 years.
Mhm.
Okay. And I will stipulate to the fact that our government has played a very large role, particularly during the 60s and the 70s when they were planting drugs in the black communities and things
Mhm.
like that's a documentable thing. That's not
Absolutely.
something I'm pulling out of my ass. That's not something that anyone else is just pulling out of thin air. That's a documented thing.
Yep.
And it was a thing to create, and I will be honest, I think the intent there was to put the black man in his place, and to keep things from progressing. Now, has the African American community done a lot since then? 100%. I think that there's been a lot of heroes, among the black community.
Mhm.
A lot of them, and there have been a lot
They
of.
usually get killed. I'm not gonna
I
lie.
think-
No,
I think,
I
though,
agree with you.
I think, though, to be fair, there's been a lot of false opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's been advertised along like college funds and this opportunity and that opportunity. And look, we went and built a community center and we did this and we did that. And the root cause of the problems were never removed.
Yeah, it's a lot of
And,
band-aids over
and
bullet
so
holes.
and
Yeah.
so what
Yeah.
you end up with is the racist folks that are like, oh well, they were given everything and
Mhm.
and they didn't do anything with it. No, they weren't.
Yeah.
And we didn't have enough time to talk about it on this show, but like they weren't given anything from the beginning. From the minute that they said slavery is over,
Yeah.
it was not a
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, that's
Hell,
so
it took
awesome.
2 years
Everybody,
for people down in Texas to
Yes.
find out that they were free. You know,
it
Bring it.
no, seriously.
No,
Like
seriously.
From the minute that slavery was over, like we have this picture painted. I can remember the textbooks that like, oh, slavery was ended. And then there was like no further explanation. So what do you think? Like, oh, wow, they were finally free
to do what?
to do whatever they wanted. And
Yeah.
it was all,
And all
bells
they knew
and
was to
whistles.
pick cotton.
But
That
like,
was it.
and they had nowhere to go. Like, and I don't think people understand that. Is like, listen, when somebody gets out of prison, they may have a few bucks in their pocket and the clothes they came in with, but they don't have anything else. And they have an expectation to go get a job,
Mhm.
become a member of society, but everybody hates you.
The government doesn't set them up.
Nope.
No.
They set them up to fail because it's like
Because
if
they want
you
them
do
back into
this-
prisons.
yes.
Mhm.
Yep.
To start making more
Mhm.
money.
Because they know
100%,
like if you're given the opportunity to get out and you don't have any opportunity to get a job, nobody wants to hire you.
You're gonna go back to the same thing. that you
Exactly,
did to
because
go
I
back.
know-
Especially if you were in the same neighborhood that you got caught up in. the
Yeah, I
crap in the
know I
first
can make
place.
money
Now, I
selling
will
drugs.
say-
You know,
I will say that there's a flaw in that plan.
Mhm.
Okay, if you're released from it's the same thing with addicts. Okay, and I've told a couple of addict friends that I know about this. If you're having a problem and you go and you get clean, you go into prison and you get out after a while order, don't go back to the same assholes and losers that helped you
Yeah,
get to where you went.
but the
Right.
problem
Some
is
of
it's the
them-
only people you know.
Yeah, and then some of them can't get parole to a different like say if a man got locked up in St. Louis and he went
Mhm.
to prison, some of them can't go. They don't have the opportunity to leave St. Louis and go. They have to parole right where.
Mhm.
So some of them can't leave and go. They have to parole in those.
If
It's
I
the-
sold you
places.
crack and you became a distributor for me or whatever, and I got you hooked on crack and everything, and you went to prison, and then you served your 5 years or whatever the sentence is, and you were clean now, you do have a record, but you were clean now. And I walk up to you and I say, "Hey, you're back, awesome! I got a couple rocks here. You want them?"
If I was at the point where I feel so low because I've been trying to get a job, I've been trying to get a house, but I can't live by a daycare. I can't
Mhm.
work by a daycare. If I'm at my very lowest and I feel like, well, hell, that's all I got. Because if I go back to jail, housing is free. I can get paid $7 a month to wash dishes.
Yeah.
So it's like
A month.
a month. Like
Yeah.
seriously.
But
it's
and I
like-
see your point, but the bottom line is, if I walk up to you and we're in the same community in the same neighborhood, I would hope that as any person would, you would say, you know what, get the hell out of my face.
Well,
Go the hell away from
And-
me, and I'm going to
the-
go sit on the street.
the
or whatever,
problem is
because
though
I'm not going back to jail.
the
I'm not
problem
going back
is
to
though we
prison.
know that never happens
Yeah.
because every one of the addicts that come out go right back to the friends that they
You're
were
right,
with
but
before.
that's what has to happen.
I know, but
Those are
how do you
decisions
change
that you
human
get to
nature?
make.
How do you change it? Because we've engineered it that way. So like even like I've heard a lot of people say, hey, when they drop people off at the mental institution down here, Kettler, whatever you want to call it, they need to, pick them up and drop them right back off to where they came from. I agree with that because Granite City doesn't need all the problems piled up on their doorstep. But when you take them out of that institution and you drop them right back off where they came from,
they'll be back soon enough.
You're putting them right back into the problem that they came from. And it's mandated. Like she said, when you go on parole, like you have to parole where you lived.
And that needs to be changed. I will 100% agree with that. But if it isn't, like we have to deal with the cards. We have to play the hand that we're dealt.
We have to deal with that mental health portion.
Right.
Of when you come out, it's not like all puppies and rainbows and all that stuff. You are now going to walk into a mental health crisis because you literally have no support. And some people may have support, but others may have little or no support. And what are you going to do when you're down in the dumps? Nobody wants to give you the opportunity because you're a felon. And you walk into a situation, well, the only friends I have are the ones that were dealing dope with me before.
Right.
But it's better than nothing.
This is something that I will go to my grave fighting. You have a choice. You may not like the choices that you have. You have a choice. Bottom line is, if you are clean and you're sober, there's your opportunity.
Agree.
You've got some restrictions. There are a lot of felons out there, black, white, whatever, that have made something of their lives.
But it's hard.
It is hard. It's very hard. I couldn't imagine doing it.
Yeah, because most of the time, these people who've gone to prison got clean because they were forced to, because you can't smoke crack in prison.
Right. But the bottom line is, when you get out, Granite City is a small community, relatively small community. Okay. You go to prison, they're probably going to send you to Springfield or someplace like that if you're going to prison. Or hell, they may ship you to a completely different state.
Sing Sing in New York.
When you are released and you come back, you have the opportunity at that point when someone comes up and says, "Hey, man, let's go to the bar." You know what? Piss off.
Yep.
I mean,
going to the bar is what got me put in there. It's a small step, and people think it's like alcoholism and alcoholics and drug abusers and people and addicts that are it starts out small.
I agree. And I think it really boils down to a mental health situation, because you got to think you've now been institutionalized for however many years you were in prison. Now think about that from a high school perspective. You were institutionalized.
It's called indoctrinated. Let's call it what it is.
Right. You were institutionalized for your entire school career around all the people you know.
Yeah.
And now you've been ripped away from them. The people that you knew on the outside, a lot of them don't like you anymore. They know what you've done. They don't want to associate with you.
Called a consequence. But
It's called a consequence, yes. But like the mental aspect of it is, I'm alone. I'm broke. I screwed up. I know that. I served my time, but everybody still hates me. And that's where we go back to what we talked about at the end of slavery. Like it wasn't a cool situation. Like you can't look at like a slave owner, which to them it was totally normal, sold trade slaves. It's free labor other than feeding them and keeping them clothed and housed. And now you're telling me I got to let them go? Like I paid for that. And now I have to pay somebody to plow the fields and do all the work that I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And like, no, I'm not going to hire them and pay. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Then you end up with sharecropping and
like there were a lot of really bad situations. So, where do the slaves go after it's all done? Where nobody wants them, like over there.
Right.
And what do they get? Hardly anything.
So, I thought it was interesting that reparations were paid to those who had done this enslaving. Okay. Outside of that, I think back to Shawshank Redemption. The older man who he had spent 30 years in prison.
Yep.
And it's like, oh man. And he's getting ready to get out and he's like, I'm going to stab somebody so that I can stay here because I don't know. Like the world had moved so far ahead in the 30 or 40 years that he had been in prison. So he gets out and he gets a job bagging groceries.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And at some point it just becomes so overwhelming that it's very much just a situation of, you know what? I was here. And
How
that's
do you
what he
start over?
carves.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what he carves before he hangs
Plus,
himself.
he was like
Yeah.
what 80 years old or
Yeah,
something
he
like
was,
that
he was
too.
a much older gentleman.
You're
He had
starting
spent
over
he had spent all the
bag of
majority of his life.
groceries.
I think back to situations like and Jean Valjean and Les Mis,
Yeah.
where he stole a loaf of bread to feed his nephew,
Mhm.
19 years he spent. In
and he
prison,
spent 19 years. But it started off with this one little charge that then he, disorderly conduct in prison, and then it's
Well, and it really displays the problem that we have going on. If you've committed a crime and you need to go to jail, absolutely. I'm not saying that people should not, answer to their crimes, but I am saying that first off, the prison infrastructure in the United States and in some other countries, that is the for-profit prisons, are broken.
Mhm.
I'm not thinking. I don't even know that the government could do a better job because we see how they handle things, and it's not great. So it needs to be a rehabilitation. Like
right, and that's the biggest problem with the prison system.
absolutely, but then in that rehabilitation program needs to be mental preparation,
Mhm.
and then there also need to be certain things like, listen, we know that we can't do anything about what an employer thinks about a felon. A felon is a felon, doesn't matter what you did.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't want to hire them, and I'm not saying to clear records or do anything like that, but there needs to be a certain amount of, like, I don't believe that every single person who's committed a felony should not be able to vote or own a firearm. Like, if your felony was a non-violent felony, like, why can't you vote?
and like 91% of the felonies
Yeah.
that have happened
Right.
Well, there
are
are
nonviolent.
So there are actually restrictions. Whether they're enforced or not, there's always ways around things, but there are actually restrictions on what you can and can't hire a felon for.
Mhm.
It is illegal to deny a felon employment if the position that they're going to be doing has nothing to do with the felony.
Yeah, but
So-
you know how the game is played with that, though.
Right.
If
I mean, yeah,
got
100%. I'm
20
just saying.
candidates, the felon ain't getting the job.
Right. Right.
even though he may be the best qualified.
Right. He could
Right.
have 30 years of experience, but I don't trust him because he's a felon.
Right. And you're right. There's always going to be ways around everything.
Mhm.
Everything that's out there, there are going to be loopholes in it. You're going to find a way to get around it. But back to the prison rehabilitation system, 100%. I agree with you 100%. Like in the prison security guards or whatever,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? You hear stuff about them, like raping women, and you hear
Yep.
stuff about
Seals.
them,
Yep.
just beating inmates for the fun of it or whatever.
Mhm.
Again,
Or
See ya.
organizing fight clubs for them.
Yep.
I
Nope.
mean, there really needs to be.
I mean, and what's sad is every inch of that place has got to be under security camera.
Hmm.
Like, so
Well-
you have footage of it happening, or at least you should be mandated
Yes.
to have footage of that happening.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
honestly, I think the prison system is broken to a degree that instead of being sit in prison, like you did a crime and you're getting 20 years. No, you're going out and you're working. Like, we're paying people around the country to do cleanups and road work and all this stuff. Here's the deal. You're going to go work. And I don't know how we work that out, whether they get paid or how that works, and, ankle
Yeah.
trackers or whatever. But like,
Well-
if you did a
Oh,
non-violent
there's so
crime,
much we can go into.
It's
I
like-
have three
like-
things I want to say about
Yeah,
a
if you
lot
did-
of y'all just said.
if you
I
did a
have-
non-violent crime, why aren't you out working for your time?
One, I've seen success stories with people who have been on hard drugs. They go in and they come out. I have 3 friends who I used to manage, and they're all females. And I mean, if you see their mugshots to where they are now, totally different people. They got out, they got into programs, they do their AA meetings. Even years after, I'm talking about 8, 9, 10 years later, they're still going to their meetings. They're doing the things. So there are success stories. I'm not saying that every single person gets out and goes back and do the same thing.
Mhm.
They have families now, they're married, they're getting baptized at church, they're doing all the things. So that, I will say, there are success stories. 2, going back to the police in the neighborhoods. Not all cops are bad cops, and I
No,
get that.
No.
And when it's publicized, a white cop shot a black person. Okay, now we go riot. Now we tear up our own neighborhoods.
Mhm.
Why are we doing that? Because now you don't have anything. Now you have to go into these other neighborhoods that have the nice stuff where you're going to now get racially profiled. Like, you had the things in your community, you messed it up because of something that the cop did. But what about when black on black crime is happening? Who's getting angry at that? So I wanted to say that because I wanted to say that not all cops are bad cops, and not every time a white cop kills a black person, we should go off the deep end, because we're doing it to ourselves too, and within our own community. Nobody's saying anything about that. Nobody's getting upset about that.
Well, and that goes
Because it
back
doesn't.
to
It's not. It's not sensational.
It's not sexy enough.
separating. It's not divisive. It's not. It doesn't sell advertising on
Right.
TV or whatever.
that's exactly LA was going to say. It goes back to what you said, Chuck. Like the media will sensationalize it, and we know from some of these previous interactions where it was a white cop shot a black guy, that's what they say. And it isn't till later that something comes out that, oh, well, there was a crime involved before that, or there was some violence involved before that, or, oh, it turns out that he was wrestling the guy in his car and all this happened. And we don't know all of that until after it's all said and done and
Right.
the rioting has happened and things have been destroyed and
Weeks later.
right. And then we find out,
If there even is a follow-up.
you know, because, well, like you said earlier, you know, immediately it's the mom on TV. He was such a good boy. And they're showing like high school photos of him when he was playing football and stuff
I
like
looked
that.
great in high school.
And it's,
Do I?
I looked great in high school, of course.
but like, that's where the media is doing a great disservice. And I truly believe, and we've said it on the show before, that there's an intentional disservice.
Yeah.
And an intentional
100%.
separation and intentional, you guys should hate each other. And I mean, because they like, you don't hear anything about churches on TV until a church has done something wrong. Like,
Right.
oh,
Mhm.
look, so-and-so bought a plane. I'm not saying that's right. It's not right. That's totally not funds that should be used for that. But like when the Westboro Baptist Church was going all crazy and saying God hates fags and had the signs and all that stuff, that was all over the news media because that
Quite a few
puts
years
a
it
bad
was,
mark
yeah.
on Christianity,
But
doesn't
you
it?
know what didn't make it? When the church down the street did a food drive and fed hundreds of people.
Or if it did make it, it was a 10-second segment. And
Yeah,
it was
that
on
was
only
it.
one because they felt like they were obligated to do it or something
yeah,
like
I guess
that.
we'll throw him
Yeah.
a bone.
Now, I go to a very nice church in St. Louis. I'm not going to say anything about it, but my pastor does things. We're the only church that has went to Haiti and put 3 ambulances in Haiti. They
From
had
St. Louis.
from St. Louis.
Okay.
They have none because where the village is, the hospital is like hours away. They're not fortunate to have cars like we can. They can't rush somebody to the hospital if they need to. And my pastor went and he saw that and he put ambulances there.
That's amazing.
They don't advertise
Nope.
that. But if he says the wrong thing or he does
Oh,
this or he
yeah.
does
it's
that,
over. It's over.
it's all over. Or
Well-
or if he's hanging out with a pastor that did something,
Well,
it's all over.
And the sad thing is that now that we've seen some of the initiatives of like the cost cutting stuff and everything in the government, where are the USAID projects that were helping put ambulances in Haiti? That would have been a great task for foreign aid,
Yeah.
you know, instead of doing other stupid stuff. Like if we knew that was a need and you've got local churches in the United States, you know, putting their money, their parishioners donated money to
Right.
putting ambulances in Haiti.
Yeah.
Why weren't we donating millions of dollars to a non-existent infrastructure of ambulatory services in this country, knowing that it was a problem?
Yeah.
Come on.
Here's the thing with the US. I call it USA. They're referring to as USAID or whatever.
Mhm.
You know, but here's the thing with that program and with all these other programs, and people are getting so bent out of shape. Here's the problem. The idea of these programs
Mhm.
is great. The idea of these programs, you know, when they're helping people that are there are bits and pieces of every one of these programs that are being scoured through right now
Mhm.
that started out as good.
Right.
The problem is, and this is the way
It
This is-
often happens.
this is the way that Congress works.
Mhm.
Period. If you're a congressman and I'm a congressman, I'm going to pass your bill. But before I give you that money for your bill, I need something else to happen here, and it needs to be included in that bill. So
Yep.
I need $100,000 to go somewhere else, and I'm going to hand you this bill. It's going to be 500 pages long. It's got to pass tomorrow, but you're not getting my vote unless you put that $100,000 in there, which, by the way, has absolutely nothing to do with the letter of the bill or whatever. And that happens a lot.
Absolutely.
And so
Mhm.
the problem, and people are getting so bent out of shape. And here's why, again, I'm not a Donald Trump supporter or detractor. I just want the man to do his job.
yeah.
That's it. and he appointed Elon Musk to do this, and they're saying, well, he wasn't elected. Well, guess what?
He was appointed.
He was appointed, and you got a whole hell of a lot of other people out there that are
Well,
making decisions that were appointed also.
Yep. And my whole point with that, because everybody's, Elon Musk, he doesn't know what he's doing. Well, first off, he's incredibly, ridiculously rich. And how many
Read his
companies?
biography,
how
and
many-
you'll realize what he's doing.
How many companies has he founded and been successful with? In fact,
Yeah.
they do over 80% of the space launches now with SpaceX.
Yeah.
I mean,
Private contracts are huge.
the
for them,
whole right. The whole point is we could have been doing this. These inspector generals that everybody's pissed off that have been fired. You could have been finding this, but you didn't,
or you ignored it.
or you ignored it.
That was the thing. That's
And
the thing.
like
yeah.
you said, what's going on is absolutely true. Plus the lobbyists in everybody's back pocket
Yep.
too, and all the PAC money that's
Yeah.
coming in.
Yep.
That Bernie Sanders, it was our PAC money from the, come on, guys, we're not stupid. People are being woke up to how things are going on.
Yeah.
And you don't need to spend $20 million on condoms in Gaza.
right.
You just don't. Like,
or
listen,
whatever side of the aisle you sit on or whatever. In one of those bills, there was $75,000 for a transgender comic book
Heard about
in the
that.
Middle East.
Right.
What the
Why?
hell?
Well,
Why?
and
Yeah,
I think
you
why
know, I mean,
people.
I could use $75,000.
Well,
yeah,
and-
if you want to be transgender or whatever, and I mean, if that's how you identify, hey, I've got no problem with that personally. Okay, but the thing of it is, we should not be sending money to other countries. $75,000 can put a whole lot of food in a lot of people's
Thank
mouths in
you.
one of our
Thank you.
cities.
Thank you.
You know, I mean, and that's the problem with what Musk is finding. And again, I'll say it again because I
Mhm.
think this is very important. I'm a big biography
Mhm. Yep.
reader, right? And if you think Elon Musk is a huge failure, doesn't deserve to be doing what he's doing, whatever, read his biography. Okay, it's available on Audible.
Yep.
You know, so or you can just buy his book. Walter Isaacson is the one that wrote it.
Oh,
Man,
wow.
And
He's a great
he's
biographer.
fantastic. Yes. But look at what he has done in the past. Look at what he's doing. And you may be pissed off at him for what he's doing. But the thing of it is, he wasn't even born here.
Nope.
He moved here. He became a citizen. His tax dollars are going to pay for all this crap also, you know.
Mhm.
What he's doing is he's uncovering literally what Donald Trump was hired by this country to do.
Mhm.
He is uncovering a lot of wasted money, a lot of money that you as taxpayers have been taken advantage of. And you may not have a problem with your money going overseas. Write someone overseas a check then.
Yeah.
We've got way too many problems in our country right now for us to be spending that kind of money in other countries. So,
Well, and you're right. That's the inherent issue. And what Donald Trump, and I'll stand with this too. Like, Donald Trump is a jerk. And
yeah, he's an asshole.
he's
Yes.
not. He
Uh-huh.
is. But his entire campaign was, we need to put America 1st.
Mhm.
And we have spent over just my lifetime and before my lifetime countless amounts of lives
Mhm.
and dollars in going over and trying to help other people when we don't even have it all figured out. And
Yeah.
in the meantime, that national debt counter has just been going up and up and up and
Yeah.
up and up. And if you don't think that's not going to screw the future generations and make it just unlivable in this country,
Yeah.
you are absolutely wrong. And the only thing that I can hear the left media saying is, oh, they've got 19-year-olds in there, and who knows what Elon Musk is doing. And they're inciting fear with, oh, he's got access to your social security numbers. What is he going to do with your social security
You have a
numbers?
PayPal account.
He's got
You know who started PayPal?
Elon Musk.
Nah.
Right. He did.
Read his biography. He was involved. It
He was
wasn't
involved.
just him.
Okay,
but,
I'll
yeah,
give you
well,
that. He was
He
involved.
made money off of it.
He
Let's
made
just
a
put it
crap
that.
load of money.
Right.
Yeah.
But my whole point is it's just inciting unnecessary. The first time that I heard them say he has access to your social security
He's always
numbers,
had it.
like, listen, no, that's not even the point. The whole point is I knew exactly what they were doing because that is a method of fear for people. Every time you hear about a data leak, well, it contains social security numbers, and people are like, my social security number.
I'll never shop at Sears
Oh my
again.
gosh, I'm going to be ruined. Like,
Yeah.
bro, he has read-only access to a database full of transactions, incoming and outgoing, to be able to go in and do an audit. You guys elected Donald Trump overwhelmingly. Nobody can refute that. Elected Donald Trump to come in and do what he said he was going to do in his campaign. And auditing federal spending was part of that. And in order to do an audit, you have to give somebody access to the data, whether it's Elon Musk or freaking Zuckerberg or Bill Gates or whoever is going to go in and actually do it. A team of people that you've hired from a third-party company, which some of them will be teenage. Steve Jobs is dead. Some of them will be teenagers.
I didn't know he was sick.
Oh, shut up.
You didn't know Steve Jobs was dead?
No,
knew
he's
that.
being.
Oh, okay.
he's
I'm like,
being
what?
like some of those teams are going to be teenagers, and that drives me nuts too. Oh, there's these group of teenagers, like as if these teenagers aren't smarter than you. The person up saying, "Oh, group of teenagers." Yeah, they're probably smarter than you because they're doing what they're doing and they're doing a good job and they're finding the stuff. And there are some programs that are absolutely worthwhile and need to be kept, but there are a lot of programs that do not put America first, whether in a foreign interest, because we do want to be generous, we do want to help people, but we don't want to walk in and be that white horse person that comes in and just bleeds money into an area and then you walk away, because we've seen historically that we will go bleed money into an area to take care of the problem and be the savior. And then when we walk away, it's worse than what we started.
That's why we have Batman.
Yeah, well, we wasted, and I'm 100% in support of our military. But this crap that went on over in Afghanistan when we left all the equipment, we wasted the lives of so many servicemen.
Yes, we
and
did.
we wasted so much money there. And I'm telling you, if anything has ever set me off before about anything the government has done, it was that. Because
you're absolutely right.
There was zero preparation on that. There was zero planning on that. And in my opinion, it should have been a war crime, or it should have been criminal for every person who was involved in making that decision, all the way to the top.
You're telling me
The
that
Prime Directive,
you're telling me that you couldn't, and this is just the littlest, smallest plan without any knowledge of military operations at all. Okay. You're telling me that you couldn't have been like, all right, I want the planes off of 4 aircraft carriers by tomorrow. Go land them somewhere, mainland US, wherever you're at. Push them over there, load all that crap on those aircraft carriers, and bring it back to the United States. Dock it up in New York, dock it up wherever you want to go with it, but bring it all back.
Gulf of America, somewhere,
That was more expensive. The Gulf of America. Shut up. You're done.
I'm the host.
You're done. No, shut up. But you're telling me that's too expensive. Like, you got those guys out there deployed on those carriers anyway. Go over there, get the stuff, bring it back, and don't enable our enemy to take equipment and use it against us.
Yeah.
Period.
Which is exactly what it is. I mean,
yeah.
It was treason. I mean, I'm going to call it what it was. It was freaking treason.
Oh, we destroyed it. We just. Oh yeah, is that why they're flying the helicopter right now? You destroyed it, all right. Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. So we could talk a whole lot more.
Yes,
about this.
We could. Rein us in, Brian.
Yes, the show has gone for an hour and 45 minutes,
and there's still people watching.
And there are still people watching. Thank you so much. We do value you.
Can I share my news?
I do want to share. I want to talk about why you're here, because and Chuck, hear me out. I love that you're here. And as you guys know, next week, we start my favorite guy.
Your favorite guy.
Your favorite guy.
Yeah, March 3rd.
Your own show. I'm the host. Throw it. Do it.
The Your Favorite Guy podcast with Brian with a Y. And that's fine. But the question is, what happens to In the Metro? And that's what Chuck's here to talk about. So real quick, what is your news, Chuck?
So basically what's going on is, so a while back I had to kind of step down from In the Metro because traveling and, things with life. Brian, my favorite guy with a Y, Brian stepped up and has done an absolutely phenomenal job of hosting In the Metro. So thank you, because you've actually, because of you've been able to keep this show alive. And I'm very happy about that. And I feel blessed that you came in here that day as Bill's friend and you became part of the In the Metro family. And, then you became the main face for In the Metro. It was awesome. Kim and I have been talking a little bit, and with you guys changing the name of the podcast and carrying on, first of all, please, by every means, accept my blessing for you guys to do that. I think that's awesome. I think it's great. I love the topics in that you guys talk about. But Kim and I were talking, and we don't want the In the Metro name to go away.
And it won't.
That's not what we want. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to continue the In the Metro podcast. It's going to be some changes. We're not going to be doing a weekly podcast. mainly because it's, as you know, it's very consuming.
It is.
To do that. So we are going to be bringing you some news here very soon, kind of about how the format's going to change a little bit. We are still going to be part of the GCRX family, 100%. Brenda has given us, multiple opportunities to do that, and we're proud to be part of that family. And we're going to basically be doubling the shows right now. We have another group of guys that have been here a couple times. They still want to do their show also. But yeah, In the Metro is not going to go away. We're going to be coming back probably once a month. I think we may do a show. We're still debating whether we're going to do a live or a pre-recorded show or whatever. But yeah, we love the In the Metro family. We love that you guys watch. And I want to thank you also for supporting Brian and Bill. For continue to keep the show alive. We appreciate that. But yeah, keep tuned in to the In the Metro Facebook page. That's not going away. Keep tuned in to the GCRX studio page. Like I said, we're still going to be a part of that. Yeah, I'm just kind of here tonight to refamiliarize myself with, it's a little weird sitting on this side of the desk and not that side of the desk. So I can't wait to get back. But yeah, that's kind of what we're doing, and man, we're excited for you guys to continue your favorite guy podcast. I'm looking very forward to it.
I thank you for all of that, the opportunity to host the show, the opportunity to move beyond where we were. I know that we have a whole lot more viewers on YouTube and on Facebook.
That's awesome,
which is great. So guys, pay attention to your Facebook and your YouTube, because we are going to be launching that new Facebook page and YouTube page for the Your Favorite Guy podcast. And will most likely still be Monday nights because it's been working for us so far. And we are going to be talking more along the lines of like finance and stuff and things that are your favorite things with your favorite guy, Brian with a Y. Like what I did there? Everybody just
think you practiced
I kid
that?
you not.
Stood in the mirror.
Everybody just looked at Bill to see what he was doing, like in unison. These two were like, what? And he looked and just shrugged.
Yeah.
I saw it out my peripheral.
It is what it is.
But it is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah, definitely. Once we have the page up, and next week, I do have Kevin Cox. He is a friend from church, and I'm not even sure. I know Kevin's got a page that he does a daily, Kevin's Daily, and he just does a page, a post on stuff. But we're gonna get into that, and yeah, he's just one of my favorite people on the planet. I do want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I know it was a very heavy episode, and I appreciate that. Any amount that you did watch, anything that you have taken away from it, we're definitely going to revisit this at some point in the future, because I feel that to make the effective change that we need to make, it's going to have to be a consistent thing. You don't get your oil changed in your car once and say, oh, I'm done. You don't go to the gym once and go, oh, I'm fit. It's a consistent thing that you've got to do. You don't eat one meal and say, I'm no longer hungry for the rest of my life. It doesn't work that way. So we're going to continue to have this conversation. How often? We'll see. But I do thank you guys for allowing me into your homes, onto your devices, however it is that you guys are watching. I do thank you. Chuck, I thank you for this opportunity. I honestly never thought I'd be hosting a podcast ever. Bill, thank you so much for being there, like the invite the first day, for being my engineer, for being one of my best friends. Like, thank you so much. Don't tear up. Don't do that. I'm not crying. You're crying. Dee Dee, thank you for your unbridled support. Brenda, thank you for giving me this platform to do what it is that I've done with it. And I look forward to doing more. With that having been said, on Saturday, we do have Dungeons and Dragons at the Board Gamery, 1406 Niedring House. That's going to be happening.
Mardi Gras Parade also.
Mardi Gras Parade this weekend as well, downtown. Mardi Gras beats. Don't
keep your shirt on.
Yeah, please keep your shirt on. I hear it's going to be cold. maybe.
I don't know.
Ish.
I was enjoying the nice warm weather
Oh.
today.
Ah,
Yeah.
Freaking
60.
heat wave.
It was
Oh.
beautiful.
It felt like
Um,
summer.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. It was a beautiful summer afternoon in February.
I walk to work instead of taking the shuttle.
No.
I take the shuttle every day because it's cold. Today I was like, I'm walking.
It's
Can you still call it an Indian summer?
I don't know.
No,
Native
you,
Americans,
hey, you know what? You haven't even started the show.
Indigenous
You
summer.
haven't even started the show. Just got canceled. Good job. Good job. Good job.
But I do want to thank you guys. My heart goes out to you.
Don't
I
do
couldn't
it.
resist.
Don't
I
do.
couldn't
Oh
resist.
my gosh.
Guys, there we go.
Oh.
I am Brian with a Y. This is in the Metro in Granite City, Studio B next to Studio C, next to the Garden Gate Tea Room, the Board Gamery, and the Downtown Diner. I am Brian with a Y, your favorite guy. You are awesome, amazing, and fantastic. Don't let anybody make you feel different. Thank you so much, and have a great week.